So if you don't want to be on the video, knock your camera off. But welcome, croeso. This is our second online education conference. Last year's went so well, we just had to do it again. And this year it's even more action-packed. So it's going to be a mission, but I'm hoping we can get through everything. We've got 7 projects to share with you, which is a lot. So there will be a little bit of speaking from me and lots of speaking from other people using my slideshow. But for those of you that have come in on the phone and you might not have used Zoom before, just get familiar with it a little bit. I have muted you. So if you want to speak at some point, you will need to click your screen and unmute. If you want to put your video on, you need to click the video picture and then that will put your video on. There is a chat option. On the phone is slightly tricky, but usually you can swipe across and then the option will come up to enter the chat, and then you can add any comments into the chat on Zoom. Failing that, you can use WhatsApp. So I've got my WhatsApp open. So if you have a question and you don't want to say it and you want to write it, you can use your WhatsApp in the groups ideally that you're in. So hopefully some colleagues can pick it up. If not, I will pick it up. So without further ado, we're going to get cracking, and I'm just so pleased to see so many familiar faces here. As usual, there will be more people come in, and the recording will go out to everybody as well. So if you drop out because of your network, don't worry. It'll be frustrating. You can try to get back in and we let you in, but if your network is not on your side, really don't worry. We'll send you the recording anyway. Okay, my trusty colleagues are letting people in, and I'm going to share my screen. Also, the slideshow that I will be using today, I'll share with everybody, so you won't miss out on anything. Okay. All right then. The time difference is tricky, and I really appreciate the fact that you are here to celebrate World Children's Day, which is on the 20th. So on Saturday, it's World Children's Day. And we really wanted to have this opportunity again to just shine a light on the amazing work that's happening in Lesotho as part of this celebration. It's really very much about empowering children and listening to children. And what we will show you today is just how hard education professionals are working in Lesotho. So let me just share my agenda. We've got we're going to start with our most recent projects with Lesotho College of Education, and we've got a maths project in process, and we've had a mentoring and coaching project. We've got lots of different elements of our Jolly Phonics literacy work to share. We've got our exciting Sesotho Phonics project from Kuting, and we've got some colleagues that have been involved in our Connecting Classrooms work, reflecting on their training. But then we're going to touch a little bit on our global citizenship work, and we'll talk about a 3-year project that has ended this year. But lots of our next steps will be about our global citizenship work and introducing some of the projects that are currently happening with schools between Wales and Lesotho. But today's session is very much about the success stories about the schools in Lesotho. Okay. So, as I said, World Children's Day is an important global celebration, you know, especially coming out of the COVID pandemic, to really shine a light on how we can improve opportunities for children. Now, like any global celebration day, there is always an action. So I will ask you to do some actions at the end of our conference, and the survey that I share with you will have lots of options of actions on there. But what I would really love to see, and many of you that are working with young people tomorrow or on Monday, to do something for World Children's Day. So share the information, talk about children's rights, talk about the future, and then share their responses with us. So you can do that on social media or on WhatsApp or in your partnerships with your schools. But it's really important that we have that dialogue and we can really shine a light on it. Something that they do with UNICEF is that they turn public buildings blue, and they wear blue, and they use that as a symbol for the celebration day. So have a little think whilst you're listening this afternoon and this evening about what possibly you could do to raise awareness of that. Okay, without further ado, we're going to come straight to Lesotho College of Education. Those of you that have been supporting us for a long time know that we've been working with the Thabet Seka campus for a number of years. And last year in our conference online, we talked about our very first online training opportunity, which was working with tutors in Thabet Seka on mentoring and coaching. Now this time it's moved into the school. So we're working with the teachers and the lecturers, preparing them to really support their student teachers. We call them practicing teachers in Lesotho, and the mentors in schools are called cooperating teachers. So I'm gonna go, oh, hang on, have I, yeah, oh no, oh, sorry, I've just messed up my own agenda. I'm gonna do maths first, not mentoring and coaching. So we'll do maths, sorry, Sean, we'll do maths first, then mentoring and coaching. So because this is actually in process. So Sean and Anne and myself have been working with high school teachers, students in year 3 and staff at the Thabet Seka campus to really start looking at the gap in maths for children that are in high school. So I'm not going to bluster my way through this. I'm going to ask Sean to speak, and then we'll come back to the slideshow with some thoughts from Lesotho as well. Okay, over to you, Sean. Sorry about that.
Okay.
I'll put you on speaker view. There we go. So
last year I did a blog for the British Council, and one of the sections of the blog, I did actually say that I thought that that the future for change in education in Lesotho was going to be through the young teachers, because they're not always harking at the past, that they were very prepared to think on new ideas and problems that were in the way that topics were taught and things like that. So thinking about the fact that in Thabet Seka district, for example, 28% of children get what is called competent in maths at grade 7, which is an odd word, but that's the word they use for a pass. So about 72% of children end up in grade 8 in high school, unable to do a lot of the maths needed. We decided that Sharon approached me, and between us, we decided that we'd like to work with high school student teachers on finding a way that we could build a bridge from knowledge that they should have had but didn't from primary school that they needed for the secondary school. So we haggled about it for a long time, tried some ideas, thought about it, but we eventually came up with a sort of bridging course maybe, or a catch-up course as they're called in Britain, whereby we would maybe look at some essential topics that you cannot approach work in the high school without having established those concepts and skills. So the idea was to work with the very few student teachers who are doing a maths course for high school in Thabet Seka, who are about 9. We thought, again, long and hard about it, and we thought maybe a 12-week course would be the best, where we'd have the odd weeks 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, etc., where we'd give them an input on some ways to approach some essential topics. And then they'd try those out together in pairs in some of the high schools. And then having done that, they'd come back the following week and feed back to us with some of the problems they'd had, and maybe some ideas they'd had from working with the children. So the topics we took some basic topics: directed numbers, basic algebra, ratio and proportion, factors, and that's what the scheme is primarily about. Now, the beauty of it, I think anyway, was that it did involve Sharon coaxing a lot of the schools and getting their maths specialists in the schools, the teachers there to come on board, the lecturers at the university, at the LCE as well, and the student teachers. So again, we've got 3 prongs of education in Lesotho coming together and establishing methodology for teaching difficult topics in slightly more visual or kinesthetic ways. Some of the problems, obviously, technical links. Zoom has been a problem. We didn't know that there was a no electricity Friday this year in Tabaseka, so we had to cancel the original day. There have been some issues with the schools and the timetable because of COVID, but I think the general response has been positive. I think that the students are quite enjoying it. I think the lecturers are also beginning to say, do you know what, we might include that in our general course for primary student teachers as well. That was a really positive step. The teachers at the secondary schools have also been positive, and the students are actually beginning now to work with the children in the schools. One of the first feedbacks we've had was that the actual knowledge of the children was worse than they thought, and that some of the ideas that we were trying to introduce, they'd had to really step back and work quite hard on some basics, which, do you know what, I thought this was a positive, because it meant that we were picking out the right topics. These were topics that are taught in grade 6 and 7 in the primary schools, and if the children in grade 8 didn't know them, and they needed them for any work that they were doing in the high school. So we know we're on the right track. We know that we're focused in the right area. One of the difficult things is now convincing the student teachers that actually what I cover in an hour, they should be looking at 4 or 5 hours in terms of working with the children. Long-term aim is to establish sustainable part of LC curriculum, that the student teachers not only gain knowledge and different methodology, but it also gives them the ability to, if they don't get a job, they can do some private tuition with some different sort of skills at a very focused area. So in conclusion, I've only got a couple more seconds, so I'll say that if it wasn't for Sharon, definitely wouldn't be off the ground, because technically working at a distance has been extremely, extremely difficult. I think, though, that potentially there's real mileage in this in maths. I suspect it's the same in science and language as well. I really think that if Lesotho opens up, it could do with a 4 to 6 week face-to-face start as a project, so that people are completely aware where it's going. But until that happens, then I'm hopeful that the Zoom lessons will fill a gap that we're not able to fill otherwise.
Thank you, Sean. And it does fill a gap in a really exciting way. I think for those of you that came last year, you'll know that Sean set up a Facebook club. And so I will share that link with everybody again, especially for those of you that are new to coming back, new to working with us or being interested with us. Or maybe you've worked with us in the past and you've had a gap, but we've got this Facebook group with amazing videos that Sean has put together already, and we're uploading the ones that we do currently. And there's also a YouTube playlist from some colleagues in Mazenod that have been leading on maths last year as well during lockdown. But I think I want to play now just a short audio from Rollerbahele, who has been feeding back to us during lockdown and now. So she's one of the year 3 students who's been working really passionately and hard on her maths teaching. And she is an advocate for just how accessible it can be and how powerful it can be to empower young teachers. There's a blog on our website that she's written, and she's going to add a new installment, hopefully. But let me just play her little presentation.
Hello, everyone. I am Rollerbahele Mapati. Mr. Zion's visual strategies on Zoom sessions prove that mathematics is not all about rules to guarantee to correct answers. I said so because I was taught that when adding and subtracting directed numbers, I find the difference where the numbers have different signs and take the sign of the bigger number. Again, I add where the numbers have the same sign and take the sign of the 2 numbers. After Zoom sessions, I used a number line.
Oh, sorry, I don't know what's happened there.
And 2 counters with different colors when dealing with addition and subtraction of directed numbers with the students in Youth Maths Club. The use of the number line and the counters diagnosed the strengths and weaknesses of the students in addition and subtraction of directed numbers. Those who understood this visual strategy first were willing to help the ones who seems to be struggling. Thank you.
Okay, you can hear more from Rollerbahele on our website, and she, well, she's just so keen, Sean, isn't she? And she's been communicating with you since you were in Lesotho many moons ago now. And she is an example of how she can use the skills to work with groups outside of college, and like you said about offering tutoring, and many parents are happy to pay for tutoring these days because of the gap in achievement for so many learners. And particularly when we're looking at maths and science subjects, we really need that expertise coming into schools and coming out of the college. So I think this collaboration has been brilliant. So my tenacity with technology and getting things going has worked as always. Right, excuse my mistake earlier. We are now going to go on to the mentoring and coaching program. You wouldn't think I've developed this slideshow myself. I do know what it is. But I'm going to hand over to Kath, who has been leading with Mandy and the staff at LCE on the mentoring and coaching.
Hello, everyone.
Oh, sorry, next one.
Hello everyone, it's Catherine Beesdale here, and I'm speaking today on behalf of Mandy and myself. We've been involved with a really exciting pilot study where the Lesotho College of Education and Dolen have come together to present a mentoring and coaching programme. So this has been a pilot programme consisting of LCE tutors, 4 LCE tutors involved in teaching practice within the schools in Tapaseka. So the 4 schools that we've been working with have all sent their cooperating teachers to this activity, and as you can see there in the outline, we've had a series of 3 pre-recorded workshops for the cooperating teachers that have then led to 3 Zoom meetings where we've looked at the activities that were carried out as part of the workshops, and also to ask if there have been any impacts on the way in which the cooperating teachers have worked and engaged with their practicing teachers. And that's been a really useful activity, coming together to share practice. And we've been fortunate that the LCE tutors have also been part of that programme and have been able to contribute both within the Zoom meetings, but also now whilst they're out on their placement visits with the cooperating teachers and the practicing teachers directly in conversations. So for our next steps, and this is how we work with any pilot activity, as you would imagine, we need to review the event. So we'll be reviewing how the activities have gone down, what maybe needs to be changed, what needs to be maintained, strengthened, and maybe to look at the way in which we present the activities, the workshops and so on. And that will lead to a planning event. So the LCE tutors and Mandy and I will work together to look at what will be in the next iteration of the programme. So we'll be looking towards the next school placement period, which is quickly coming upon us in February 22. So just to give you a flavour of what we have been doing, we started off by talking about what makes an effective mentor. And of course, the cooperating teacher's role is to mentor the practicing teachers in their care. And these words really signify the types of characteristics that a mentor needs to be effective. And you can see there that there are lots of references to being patient, to being approachable, to being a good organizer, a collaborator, to be supportive, to be able to listen, and to be able to help the practicing teacher on their journey towards becoming a good teacher in the classroom. And in a way, this is the basis of our workshop. So we looked at good listening skills and good communication skills, being able to feedback in a positive manner, being able to support the practicing teacher to develop their own targets and to support them in carrying those targets out, thinking about the next steps, and really thinking about the way in which we can develop and encourage the practicing teacher to become independent by the end of their time in school with you, by being supportive and challenging, and expecting particular things to happen, because those are the things that need to happen in order to make progress. So the activities, as I say, were presented in pre-recorded format, and then we spoke about the impact of those in our plenary sessions. And to give you a flavour of some of the comments that came from the participants, you can see here that I've got a variety of comments from different people. You can read them yourselves, but it was really, really positive to see that there are comments like, I can foresee the positive change for student teachers, the questions to help support practicing teachers so that they can have the skills. So that idea of being able to articulate what being a teacher is, and supporting the practicing teachers to reach their potential as good and effective teachers. And there's that challenge, that idea of confronting the challenge, being honest about the ways they need to develop, and then to find a relatively straightforward solution for it that the practicing teacher can actually understand and carry through. So those participant comments give you an idea of the success of the pilot, and we are really delighted that we are in a position where, having had the review event and making sure that we are fit for purpose, that we'll be in a position where the LCE tutors with Dolen support can roll out the programme to schools right across the Tabaseka region, and then to share that good practice with colleagues in Masiru, leading to a wider adoption of mentoring and coaching programme right across LCE. As I say, we've been delighted to be part of this pilot, and we are excited about the future and looking forward to being part of that as well. Diolch yn fawr, thank you very much.
Thank you, Kath. I can see quite a few people have come in now who weren't here at the beginning. What we're just encouraging everybody to do is to write questions in the chat or in WhatsApp, and then there'll be opportunities throughout the conference to have some feedback. But we're in the middle of just hearing about our mentoring and coaching programme, and I'm going to move on to Ms. Eliani from LCE.
Hello everyone, it's Catherine.
No, we always go to repeat. Let me just also, apologies guys, what's happening, I think some people are trying to use the screen and it's annotating over the slide. So I'm just going to stop and screen share again. Okay.
Thank you very much. Would like to add on Memandi and Catherine's presentation. What have we done? We designed 2 evaluation forms, one for cooperating teachers and another one for student teachers. The evaluation forms were delivered to schools on the 4th November 2021. How do the evaluation forms cover? Cooperating teachers' evaluation form demands understanding about their roles. Here we are trying to say cooperating teachers should understand their roles very well so that they will be able to assist student teachers. Skills they have tried after being trained on mentoring and coaching. Cooperating teachers should tell the skills they have tried after being trained. Have they got from training? They should tell if the training has helped them or not. Challenges they face when trying to apply the skills. Availability of time for discussion. We'd like to know how often the cooperating teachers sit together with the student teachers to listen to what they need. Assistant student teachers often need. On which things that the student teacher often want to be assisted. Ability to assist or if there is need for support. We'd like to know if cooperating teachers are able to offer assistance to student teachers or if they need to refer to someone else for some support that the student teachers need. Challenges faced and suggestions for improvement. Cooperating teachers here should be able to tell challenges or problems they encounter when trying to assist student teachers. They should also come up with suggestions for improvement or suggestions on how the problems encountered should be solved. Student teachers evaluation form request availability of cooperating teachers. Here, student teachers should tell if they have cooperating teachers or not.
Apologies, guys, that's me. Oh.
Approachability of their cooperating teachers, if any. Student teachers should tell if their cooperating teachers are approachable, and they should give reasons why they say so. How often they sit together with their cooperating teachers. We would like to know how often do student teachers sit together with their cooperating teachers to tell them their needs. If they have been assessed and how feedback was given. We'd like to know if student teachers have been assessed by their cooperating teachers and how they were given feedback. Challenges they face during their teaching practice. Student teachers should tell challenges they face during their teaching practice. Ways of overcoming challenges they faced. Student teachers should come up with strategies on how to overcome the challenges they raised because they should learn to be problem solvers. Assistance they need and skills they have learned. Student teachers should tell how they want to be assisted, and they should also learn the skills they have learned from their cooperating teachers. Our expectation is that they will learn more from their cooperating teachers as they are working together on a daily basis. So we think they should be able to tell the skills they have learned from their cooperating. Our personal reflections on the experience. What has been the impact? We have acquired skills for mentoring and coaching student teachers. Visiting schools will help improve working relationship with cooperating teachers as well as student teachers. The open conversation that the LC tutors will have with cooperating teachers and student teachers will provide basis for improving teaching practice. Cooperating teachers will be motivated, comfortable, confident, and more effective in an outstanding job they already do with our student teachers. Challenges faced by both cooperating teachers and student teachers should be solved. Need for follow-up. The 4 tutors will make follow-up to see how cooperating teachers and the student teachers are doing after the visit. What will be that? The schools will be visited on the 15th to 19th November 2021. Thank you very much, LCE tutors.
Thank you, May. And I know May Loki is here, who can give us a bit of feedback, because that was this week where they went to visit the schools. I'm hoping she's still in the meeting. Are you there, May? If you unmute.
I'm there, May. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity on behalf of Metlebere, Mesidiane, and Mejanki, who are part of the mentoring group at LCE. We went to schools this week and had an open discussion with student teachers as well as cooperating teachers in 4 schools. I'll start with the student teachers. Student teachers mentioned that they all have cooperating teachers in the 4 schools, and they are working hand in hand with the cooperating teachers. They said they sometimes team teach and they do planning together every day. Our student teachers mentioned that all their cooperating teachers are approachable and they wish to learn more from them until the end of the semester. They said that they are given opportunity to speak after lessons. They are given opportunity to say how they felt and how the lesson went. And they are also getting feedback from their cooperating teachers. Though a challenge is that sometimes they do not get feedback immediately after a lesson due to timetable that is packed. But after school, they sit together in some schools, they sit together and get their positive feedback. Moving on to cooperating teachers from the 4 schools, they all expressed their gratitude by being given this opportunity to be trained. They explained that this training has been a refresher training because it made them to realize more the expectations from the college. Therefore, they recommended that it should continue. And also, they asked that it should be extended to other schools in Tabatseka as we place learners, student teachers, sorry, in all schools around Tabatseka. COP teachers say that they work cooperatively with our student teachers. And like the student teachers have said, they blend together and sometimes team teach. They said some student teachers are not reluctant to approach them for their assistance. However, after this training, some teachers tried to employ the skills they have learned, such as listening skills, giving positive feedback to student teachers. Some of them found some skills challenging, especially effective listening. Some explained that they even interrupted student teachers as they were speaking, but they will continue to practice until they get it right. They said they are going to continue until the end of the semester when they close, even next year when they are given other student teachers. However, it seems there are limitations. They showed that really the program was good, but time was not suiting all the teachers as it was in the morning when they still have classes. So next time they suggest that at least it should be moved to the afternoon when they have knocked off. Some teachers have not been part of this training because of technology challenges. they explained that only 2 of them said that really they were not familiar with Zoom, so they had to spend much time trying to log in. Some said that they were able to log in, but then they could not hear the voices of the presenters. They could see pictures, but not hear. So they still have to, they suggested that next time they are going to equip themselves with technology so that they are part of the training. Others mentioned that they did not have smartphones to be part of the training, 2 of them in one school. However, some had smartphones, but ran short of data as they were trying to go through pre-recorded sessions. They said they were sponsored, but that consumed their data, that they did not have opportunity to watch the last pre-recorded session. I think this is generally what we found in schools. My colleagues will add if there will still be time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, May. That's comprehensive feedback. That's brilliant. And I'm sure Mandy and Kath are making notes on how to move forward with the project. I think for those of you that are new to this and haven't heard us talk about this before, we have a lot of the material available on a Google Classroom, so you can have access to some of these videos and tasks so that you can start to develop your mentoring and coaching skills. So as part of the evaluation, there is a link in there for you, okay? But it's a really well-designed package that we've obviously had good feedback, but as Meloki said, it is about a practice. You have to learn to get better at listening and questioning and giving feedback. It doesn't come naturally. We all want to speak, and interrupting people, especially a student teacher, is quite common. And this is very much about being better at letting them make their own decisions and come to their own conclusions. Okay, thank you, everybody. I'd like to see if anybody has any questions. We've got a couple of minutes for any questions about the maths project or accessing any of the maths materials or the mentoring and coaching. So use the chat or feel free to unmute. Or you can raise your hand if you know how to do that. At the bottom of the screen, there's a little thing called reactions, and you can put your hand up like you're in class. I'll just let you have a little think, see if there's any questions. Everyone's shy. Okay, no problem, folks. We just had a bit of feedback about the maths project. They're really keen. It's from May Masasi, the director of LC Campus. Welcome, May. They're really keen to get it going and get practicing from their training, which is fantastic. It's really good to have such enthusiastic feedback from our work, because we've adapted to doing everything online, as you know. Okay, feel free, like I said, to keep questions coming. There'll be a chance now after our Jolly Phonics presentation. Excuse me. There's various parts of this that I'm going. Oh, hang on, sorry, there is a hand raised. Tlebere, do you want to unmute and ask a question? Mate, are you there? Tlebere? If your hand is up, does that mean you want a question, or are you trying with the reactions? We've got Mkhize as well. Did you have a question? I'm not sure if your audio is working, guys. Okay. I'll deal with that one in a second. Okay, I'm going to share my screen and we're going to go into the Jolly Phonics part of the presentation now. Okay, So first up is a presentation from our, not new anymore, our appointed literacy officer, Mr. Jose Mofolosi, which he is here. Hello, Ntate. So as part of our COVID adaptation work, we managed to recruit Ntate Jose for 1 day a week. And one of his first jobs was to make the radio shows. Now, I'm hoping all of you here have heard our radio shows. If you haven't, they are on this link, which is our Padlet, and they take you to a site called Mixcloud. And every sound in the Jolly Phonics series has been created into a little radio show with Teacher Jose. I'm just going to play his presentation so he can tell you a little bit more and an example from one of the people that have been listening.
Teacher Jose ya rutang bana ho bala le ho ngola. This is Teacher Jose, a Jolly Phonics teacher. What is Jolly Phonics? I always say Jolly Phonics is the medicine that cures illiteracy. And any child gone through this program excels not only in English literacy, but in other subjects. Jolly Phonics teaches the 42 letter sounds, and each sound is introduced with a story, an action, flashcard, letter formation, and a song. It is fun, child-centered approach, and multisensory. Children love it. Radio Lesotho aired Jolly Phonics radio shows, and it had more listeners than we had anticipated. Vision Street, a local company that offers services in photography, video, audio recording, film and television promotion, has done a great job to help with the recordings and editing of Jolly Phonics radio shows. Every week, I made a summary of lessons played during that week. The summary was in the form of videos to reinforce what was learned. The videos were shared via WhatsApp, Facebook pages, Twitter, and on other platforms. They had more viewers. Almost everyone that knows me says when they meet with me, Teacher Jose, I heard you teaching on Radio Lesotho. One would say, hi, this is Teacher Jose. Welcome to the Jolly Phonics show, where you can learn the skills needed to read and write. My former English teacher said to me, Jose, now you are a teacher. I saw you on Facebook teaching us. We struggle here. Secondary students cry when they are asked to read a paragraph. They can't decode words. I think this program can be great for them. How can you help us? I used to visit reception schools. And when I entered 2 schools respectively, teacher asked children, who taught us Jolly Phonics on Radio Lesotho? With all excitement and joy, they say, Teacher Jose. Then teacher says, this is Teacher Jose. All their faces were full of joy and excitement. And they were asked to read some letter sounds and do some actions. It was so impressive to see the impact of Jolly Phonics radio shows. We got radio surveys from people from different districts. they are all positive. Yes, we can say Jolly Phonics is the future. All
Sorry, it's just stopped.
learners should be taught Jolly Phonics. Thank you.
Thank you, Ntate Hosi. He is my wingman. We are working very closely together with this, and he's doing a wonderful job. Talking of mentoring and coaching, he's doing a lot of that with our Jolly Phonics group. One clip that he shared with me, he had received based on the radio shows, and I'm just going to play it briefly here. So you can see, even in the fields, people have been tuning into the radio stations and using it to help their children at home, which is remarkable. They were played in the winter holidays, and we will be boosting them on Facebook. So the links to the audio files, we will boost that across Facebook during the summer holidays. Radio shows are really expensive, so we don't have funding to put it on Radio Lesotho again at this point, but we are always looking at further funding and further opportunities. So again, when we do our survey later, you can let us know your thoughts. Okay, next up is, just bear with me, our Catchup Clubs. So another COVID adaptation strategy came about during lockdown. A lot of teachers that we worked with remotely did the online course for Jolly Phonics and Jolly Grammar. And so as a team, they really wanted to use it as a tool to help their catch-up skills for their learners coming in. So when schools opened in April, as you know, the education had been disrupted for so long, teachers and learners alike were nervous. They had forgotten things, they didn't know what was expectations, you know, there were so many different things to contend with. But the introduction of Catchup Clubs really galvanized interest in the school, and pupils that often weren't attending or misbehaving really started to engage. So I'm going to play a presentation from one of our lead phonics teachers in Tabatseka, Mema Matswani.
Good evening, everyone. I am Mema Matswani from Tabatseka Primary School. I am going to talk about Catchup Clubs that we have in our school. Grade 4 and grade 5 are grouped together and are working harmoniously with Mema Matswani, while grade 6 and 7 are working with Me Lerato Lukwala. I have introduced the letter sounds to the learners using different materials such as flashcards and all charts, still following 8 steps and 5 goals. It was very challenging at the beginning because learners were unable to read and write even simple words. It took me some days without seeing any progress, but when time goes on, there was a big improvement in terms of blending. Learners are now able to read and write. They even read on their own. They are able to write sentences correctly, even though we still have others who are struggling, but not so bad. About reflection, my patience has been tested and improved due to phonetic way of teaching. On the side of my learners, their behavior has changed and they learn in a funny way. They learn with enjoyment, and this has extended even to other learning areas. In terms of impact, teachers in my school have made an agreement that one day a week we conduct the school-based workshop to help improve every teacher in his or her grade. The whole school is now showing progress. Learners read and write fluently. Learners are so happy in their respective grades. Parents are also encouraged to see their children read so well. Thanks.
Thank you, May. Now, something some of you probably know about is that we do have feedback every Friday. We have something called Phonics Friday. It's moved to Thursday recently because of electricity, but we do a Zoom meeting every week just for 30 minutes to feedback and mentor and support each other. Because as you can hear from what May is saying, that is really important to develop in any literacy program, any intervention, so that you are working together in your schools, but also with others as a wider network. A lot of evidence of this is on the website link on the slide, which I will share with you, which shows all the different schools involved across the 3 districts that we've been working with. I just want to share these quick little video clips with you as well, just to see how good this is going. So I'll just play Mount Smiley first.
Oh, the word oh, how many sounds? The word oh, how many sounds? Yes, 2 sounds. Is it correct? Yes. Now we have how many? 2 sounds. Which are they? Oh. Which are they? Oh. Which are they? Oh. We have 2 sounds. Okay. So I'm going to ask you to write some words that I'm going to tell you on your board. Are you ready for those words? Yes. And those words, they still have what? Oh sound. They have what? Oh sound. They have what? Oh sound. Are you ready? Yes. Let us start the first word. Gold. Go. Old. Go. Old. Go. Old. Go. Old. Go. Old. Go. Old.
Okay, I think you can see, you know, we've got a smaller number of pupils there. They get more attention. They get a good example of going through the steps of Jolly Phonics and the skills. This is the dictation part. So it's been really, really successful since schools have opened. So well done, everybody who has been involved. So next up, we're going to hear from our pilot. Excuse me.
Good evening, everyone. I am Nema Mutsunahanchube from Tabazagapi.
This is the downside of using slides, everybody, that has videos on. Okay, so hand in hand with the Catchup Clubs is our pilot project. So we've been collaborating with Jolly Futures, which is the philanthropic part of Jolly Phonics. So they've donated materials, they've given us training, they've given us mentoring, and they've been working very closely with us to deliver a pilot project in Tabatseka in 6 schools. So we delivered the training, and now we're just coming to the end of the 6 schools, working with grade 1 learners and teachers to see just how effective the programme is, and then that will be compared with other schools that haven't been involved. So I'm just going to share a little video of the workshop and then hear from one of our lead DRTs on the ground.
Engage as many activities as possible so that they will enjoy the learning.
Okay, I'm just going to play the audio from Mela Hobo as well.
I'm really very happy and thankful.
Apologies, that's the wrong one.
Hello everyone, I am Mkhize, a district resource teacher in Thaba-Tseka. We started the Phonics pilot project in June. We selected 6 schools to pilot, which are Katlong Primary, Lodi Primary, Pare Primary, Bochelezana Primary, Ore Primary, and Thaba-Tseka Primary. We also selected 5 schools as the control schools. Firstly, we assessed 20 grade 1 learners from each school of the piloting and of control schools in the same app. Learners were assessed in reading letter sounds, reading words, and matching words with pictures. All learners were not able to read letter sound, read words, match words with pictures. From there, we trained grade 1 teachers of pilot schools in teaching of Phonics. After a month, we went back to schools to assess the same grade 1 learners of pilot and control schools. Learners in control schools were able to read letter sounds up to set 4. They were able to read blended words from letter sounds. They were able to match some words with pictures, while those of control schools were not able to read and match. Having seen the great impact brought by Phonics teaching of learners being able to read and write independently, we held more workshops for grade 1 and 3 teachers of 5 Thaba-Tseka schools and for 12 ECCD teachers in the district. We visited those 5 schools and their learners were able to read letter sounds and blend words. Grade 1 teachers were also assessed in teaching of Phonics. They were really doing well. I really recommend the teaching of Phonics in schools as it brings the best results in reading and writing independently to our learners. Thank you.
Thank you, Mela Hobo. And there's one
to be part of Phonics project. I have also learned how to teach Phonics, and I'm helping my children to improve their reading and writing skills. Professionally, I'm able to support teachers in teaching of Phonics, and that resulted in them improving their English teaching. Their learners are able to read and write independently.
Okay, thank you, Mela Hobo. We are currently.
Hello,
I'm sorry, I'm having a disaster with this. Apologies. Everything is playing at the same time. See, technology is brilliant, guys, but it doesn't always work. One thing that has been really interesting for our leaders in these schools is using the Jolly Monitor app, which has been challenging. And all the assessments for the learners have been done on an app that I can access then on my laptop. And it's been a learning curve for everybody, as is this slideshow. So I do apologize for all the noise. I'm going to move over to the next slide now, hopefully. All right, okay. So with this program comes developing expertise. As we said, we've worked with Jolly Futures very closely, but we have been already working with Jolly Phonics before that. Since 2013, we've been working with Jolly Phonics since working in Catcher's Neck. So we are developing up a team of trainers. One of our trainers is going to share her story here. And then we've got another trainer who's going to talk about the mentoring role that she's taken on.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Nepulani Motsoko from Pare Primary School. I'm one of the trainers in Thaba-Tseka district. So I'm going to tell you about the workshops that were held here. We started by training the grade 1 teachers from the 4 piloting schools and the coordinators from those schools. The workshop was in September. It was a follow-up of the workshop that was held in June, whereby teachers were taught about the Jolly Phonics, the 7 groups of the letter sounds. And those groups, they were taught the steps, which are 8, that they are supposed to follow when teaching those letter sounds, and the 5 skills that have to be achieved while teaching the letter sounds. Teachers were asked to talk in the workshop that was held in September. Teachers were asked to talk about the challenges they met while teaching the Jolly Phonics and their successes. After they demonstrated how to follow the 8 steps when teaching the Jolly Phonics so that they could be helped. So teachers told us those challenges and the successes. Then we helped them with the challenges. They were also helped or taught about the magic E, the tricky words, the alternatives, family words, short and long vowels. They were also shown the materials that they can draw in their classes so that children can understand. They were also taught how to teach the tricky words, that a tricky word is said according to how it is. It cannot be blended. And they were given the techniques of teaching the tricky words. Again, another workshop was whereby the grade 2 and the grade 3 teachers from the 6 schools that are not used to Jolly Phonics were trained. This workshop was on the 3rd of September. Even here too, teachers were taught about the 7 groups of the letter sounds. When teaching those 7 groups, teachers were taught about following those 8 steps in teaching the letter sounds.
So let's remember how you did yourself. You can come and show us. Come and show us. Come and show the class. And to tell them what the letter sound is. Your sound is, just take it and show them. Let's imitate her, class.
I want to be a trainer in Lesotho so that I can be able to help all teachers in order to help the learners to read and write at school. I also want to be a trainer all over Africa so that I can be able to help teachers in Africa to be able to help learners to read and write using Jolly Phonics. I want to explore more about Jolly Phonics so that I can help teachers in the skills of writing and reading. I want to help build up a better communication skill and confidence, which I needed for one to be a trainer. I want to develop skills in teachers by training them so that they can perform Jolly Phonics effectively and efficiently at school. Becoming a trainer has helped me so far because before I knew about Jolly Phonics, I didn't have techniques of helping learners how to read and write. If one child was struggling to read and write, I didn't know how to help. But now I have confidence in helping learners to read and write because I use Jolly Phonics. I'm teaching Jolly Phonics each and every day. So now my learners are able to read and write. My communication skill has developed too. I can be able to communicate effectively with my learners and the teachers. I have also explored so much knowledge in terms of helping learners to read and write. Now I'm so knowledgeable in using technology. I know how to use the Padlet, Jolly Monitor, Mixcloud, and other apps. Really, Jolly Phonics has helped me a lot I'm happy to be a trainer in Thabazakha district. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. That was appropriately mentioned, the literacy of digital skills there and the different apps that we're using. It's been an exciting journey to be on with so many teachers and guiding them through ways to navigate. And my phone is very busy at the moment with people working out how to use Zoom. But many people are texting as well, going, wow, this is brilliant, I want to get involved. So please, message in the chat or on WhatsApp to let us know if you want to get involved in this. The ambition that you can see here with our trainers is second to none. And all of it fits really neatly with what we have been doing with Kath and Mandy and LCE with mentoring and coaching, because those skills are now being used to improve practice in their schools, but also in other schools. So I'm going to hand over now to May Lillian, who has been doing some visits to some of the schools that have been trained outside of the pilot project.
Dumelang bomme le bontate. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Malisa Mohlomi, a Jolly Phonics trainer in Thabazakha district. I was so fortunate to visit at 2 schools that we trained. That was Museta Primary and Khomodile Primary. They are far away from the town, and it is not very easy to get to those schools. But through passion of the Jolly Phonics, we managed to do it. Really, I was impressed when I get to those schools because the walls said it all. Their walls had the sounds and the words. And then that made me feel motivated because in actual fact, I was not expecting that. But we have seen that we put the seeds on the rich soil and now it was germinating. It was at Moseto, they told me that they had a challenge of teaching the Jolly Phonics due to the stories, because since they are teaching learners from rural areas where they don't speak English, they won't understand the stories. But then we discussed that they should try to localize the Jolly Phonics, the stories, so that the learners can get that content they need. Because in Jolly Phonics, if they're in the stories, we can involve their names according to the sound that we are going to teach. It will be easy job for them to understand the sound you are going to teach. And also the challenge there was that the learners tend to dodge the schools. They don't attend well because absenteeism is too much. So that made them to repeat one sound several times in order to cover for those who were absent. So since now it is time to go to the fields, the parents use them to go to the fields and they don't bother for their children to come to school. That was really a challenge. The other school, Khomodile, the learners were very interested in the Jolly Phonics class because they were all given the letter sounds to blend the words, and they did that for me. We discussed with their teacher that she can vary activities. Since when I arrived there, I saw some learners playing hopping scotch. I even showed them that the hopping scotch, we can use it as a tool to blend the words. That impressed them because they thought that they were playing, but also they were learning. And that motivated them a lot. We discussed different activities that we can do when we planned, and they were very happy. Since our schools are very far from each other, it is still stands a challenge for us to reach those schools as soon as we want. But we made a group where we share some ideas whenever they meet the problem. And also we promised when we had the workshop with them that we will have the workshop for grade 4, 5, 6, and 7, because it is really a challenge for learners who did not do the phonics to get the spelling correct and to read the words that it is their first time to see. So when you know the sound, when our learners know the sounds, they will be able to read any word, no matter whether it's the first time or that word they have been seeing anywhere. So when they know the letter sounds, they are able to read any word. So we also discussed the tricky words, the way of teaching the tricky words, and the way they can assess the tricky words. I think the visit was not enough, but they were happy that we visited them.
Thank you, May. It looks like I got the name wrong on the school there, sorry, but let me just show you this clip. Which is a great way, to bring the physical activity into the literacy, and you can do that with numeracy and all parts of the integrated part of the curriculum. Thank you, guys. There's so much going on there with Jolly Phonics. It did take half an hour, but we have time for questions now before we move on to our next section. And also we have been in for over an hour, so if you need to get up and move and stop any pins and needles, please do that. Mandy, Veronica, has anything come up in the chat for questions?
Lots of very positive feedback and congratulations for hard work. No questions at the moment.
If anyone wants to unmute, feel free, or raise your hand by clicking on the reactions and we can come to you. It's up to you. I'll just give you a bit of time to think, see if you've got any questions. Okay, quiet. I can see some of our trainers are here in the room, hopefully pleased with the way that they've been presented there. Their feedback is invaluable, and it's been wonderful gathering all your stories. Okay, so if you come up with a question, just pop it in the chat. We're going to move on now, and we're going to go from Tabatseka, down from the Highlands, down to the Lowlands, to Kuting, low-ish, not that low, to look at the Sesotho project that we've been working on. And this is a project of old. This has been going on for a long time. Our lead teachers there came to Wales in 2015, and they started the germination of this idea then, and they worked in our conference with teachers. Many of you are here today in 2017, but we had some funding to be able to support them to, again, address this gap in achievement in Kuting schools. So I'm going to share my screen again and hope that technology is with me. This is where it plays every video again. Okay, so we've got our Sesotho phonics sound, Madumo or Sesotho. And we were very fortunate, similar to the radio shows, we worked with Vision Street to have a film made about part of the project. So I'm just going to share this with you.
Over the years, Dolen Cambry Wales Lesotho Link has been creating friendships and partnerships between Lesotho and Wales communities.
Dolen Cambry Wales Lesotho Link, it's a collaboration between two countries, small countries, Lesotho and Wales. And the way they usually say it is that they are bilingual in Wales, and the structure of our country is similar to theirs. So that is what attracted them to Lesotho in particular.
With this links, Dolen Cambry Wales Lesotho Link builds a mutual belief in a shared ownership, working together to create a fair and sustainable change.
The 8th of September marks the UNESCO's International Literacy Day. So we had this workshop to commemorate that.
Phonics tsa sekgowa mme o ne o hatla ho rona hore le gone re ke re bone hore jalo ka puo ya rona jalo ka tsela e tla hloka hore medumo ena ke re hlophe ka tsela e tla etsang hore bana ba utlwisise ka pele ho bala le ho ngola ba sa hloke hore be ba tataiswe ke titjhere ka mehla mme re la fihla tlhokomelong ya rona re dule fatshe re hlophe medumo ya Sesotho ho latela bothata ba yona ebe jwale re fetisetsa ho titjhere tse teng mona Lesotho.
So we had a workshop today to train teachers on Sesotho phonics. We call it Medumo ya Sesotho.
Mona la ha ntse se se bopa modumo bo ba le tsebe namang mo ke mang se ba le tsebe ha re bope le ntse ha re bope ha re bope e bohlokwa puong ha re tsebe ke mang
Thupelong ena ke qetang ho tswa ho yona ka nnete ke ithutile dintho tse ngata o re itshabiseditse dintho tse ne ke tse ke sa di tsebe hona le nna ha ke tloha moo ke lo etsa ka mokgwa ke rutuweng ka hore jwale ke lo etsa dikaretana ke rute bana ka hore ba tsebe modumo o le mong pele ke fetele ho e le hore ba tle ba qetelletse ba ipopetse mantswe a mokgwa o nepahetseng. Utlwisisa le wa thaisela le ka mora ho facilitator re fana ka dipampitshana tse nyane tse ba ngolang maikutlo a tsona maikutlo a bona ho tsona jwale ke bone ka le feedback e
ebile workshop ya bohlokwa hobane ne re tlo intlafatsa mekgweng ya ho ruta ngwana ho bala le ho
thabiso ba difahleho tsa bona le ho sa batho ba kgotsofetse se re tla bona ha ba tswa ditlelaseng bona ebe ba e amohetse ka tsela e re boneng difahleho tsa bona di bua ka yona hore bona ha ba e fitisetsa bane na e tla ba tswalla namane e tshehadi hoba rona ka nnete dikgothong tsa rona bana ba rona ke ba ruta jwalo ho bala le ho ngola ka mehla le mehla hobane ke mokgwa o bobebe wa ho ruta ngwana ho bala o nka medumo ka dikarete a ngole mantswe a sebedisa dikarete a bala a sebedisa dikarete pele a ka nka buka hobane ke yona ntho e etsa hore kelello ha e tshwara ka mehla o tseba hore lentswe lena le bopehi tjena hoba ke bona medumo e bopileng ka mehla le mehla. Ke leboha batho ba hlophisitseng kopano ena tsatsing lena e ka ska ba ya tsatsing lena fela le hore ba ka ba fetola matitjhere o ska etswa a le mang e le hore thuto e re e fumaneng ka jeko e anele bathong bohle ba e leng matitjhere.
Ke rata ho leboha Wales ka mpho ena e fileng mmuso wa Lesotho. Ke rata ho tiisa e ka ba thupelo ka tshwarang selemo le selemo.
So the workshop is not annually. We had the follow-up workshop last week. So something we have learned from our work in English phonics is that follow-up and encouragement and support and mentoring, and that is something that we are doing in Kuting now. But with this funding, and it's not, that is the gift. The funding is the gift. Everything else is coming from you guys over there. This is from our team in Kuting. And with that funding, we've been able to pay for May Amelia to be our project officer as well. So she has got some feedback for us on how things have gone since the second workshop and plans moving forward.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Amelia Mkhize, Education Project Officer at Dolen World Sesotho Link. I'll be summarizing the video that you've just watched on Sesotho Phonics project that is currently underway in Kuting schools. In doing that, I'll be taking you through the impact that the project has had on Kuting schools. What success stories do we have to share with you this evening? And lastly, I will look at the plans that we have going forward with the project. The project has not been going on for long, but ladies and gentlemen, I can tell you that the project has had a great impact on Kuting project schools. The project's focus has been to train grade 1 teachers in the Kuting town schools to be able to apply the Jolly Phonics 5 basic skills and the 8 steps in teaching Sesotho Phonics. In the second workshop, where teachers had to give us feedback on learners' progress, teachers in the workshop indicated that learners are able to identify set 1 sounds and form words using these sounds independently, which is something they were not able to do before they got trained in the workshop. They also added that slow learners were picking up, which is a remarkable success story to share. Moreover, other schools that are not amongst project schools have attended the 2 workshops. There is also word going around that more schools are keen to be included in future trainings. We have some success stories to share with you. A Sesotho Phonics resource booklet was printed and distributed to all schools that participated in the training workshop. At school level, other grades teachers show interest in taking part in the project by adopting the Jolly Phonics interactive most fun way of learning Sesotho sounds. So other teachers are also interested in being part of this amazing project. More schools are taking part in trainings. We saw it fit to issue certificates of attendance to the participants after the second training workshop to inspire our participants to be part of this project for longer. The aim is to localize by using materials and resources from immediate environment and surroundings to teach Sesotho Phonics, because we believe that if these local materials which are available from the learner's immediate environment are used in teaching Sesotho Phonics, then that's going to make it easier for learners to understand, because it will be something that is concrete and something that they see on a daily basis. What are the next steps? What are our future plans for the project? We wish to devise ways to increase mentorship and support to individual schools in order to boost teachers' confidence in the new system of teaching Sesotho Phonics. because this is still new to them. So we are going to offer as much support as we can to our teachers. We also want to expand the project to include other schools in the district, because there are plus or minus 14 schools which are not part of the project at the moment. We wish that those could just join in and be part of this project and extend to upper grades in the same schools. Because we have trained grade 1 teachers, we wish that when the learners go to grade 2, then they'll still be taught in the same way, and the same way be applied to upper grades. That is to go with the learners, and also to be going, like for next year, the grade 1s should also get training. So in short, we want this to be in all the grades in the ultimate run. We also want to host a competition for project schools teachers to compose a song, a story, and an action using their own creativity, their own talents to accompany each sound in set 1. And we want to use set 1 as a point of departure for now. Then we wish to have a prize for the winners in each category, so that they can have something to show off for their valued efforts. The aim is to add this to the resource booklet that we already have, that teachers are using at the moment. So we wish that as we discover new things, as we bring in new resources and materials, anything that is going to enhance the teaching of Sesotho phonics, that we are going to add to the booklet. Ladies and gentlemen, this takes us to the end of my presentation. I wish to thank you very, very much for your time. Good evening, and thank you.
Thank you, Amelia. She is an old hat now at doing these presentations. She has done quite a few for us, and again, learning technology along the way and doing brilliantly. Thank you, May. Any questions at this point before we finish our literacy section and move into the last half an hour where we're looking at global citizenship? I can see more people have joined from Wales, which is wonderful, croeso, and more people are in and out with Lesotho, because we do know the network is dropping. But any questions, folks? I will share the link to all these resources. The Sesotho project is housed on something called Padlet, and it's got YouTube videos, it's got a PDF resource, it's got links to other literacy resources in Sesotho, it's got learner assessments on there, so anybody can access that through this link after the conference. Okay, if there's no questions, we shall move on. We are going to hear from some colleagues involved in our Connecting Classrooms CPD, the training that we did online with the British Council of South Africa. And then I'm going to be handing over to my colleague and mentor, Polly Seaton, and she will talk about our Walk the Global Walk project.
What are the next steps? What are our future plans?
The same thing is happening each time. There you go. That's the Padlet. So that's what I'll share with you. You can access it for free on your phone, and each of these columns have different links that you can use, and that would take you to different websites or downloads that you can make. Okay, so in the summer, we offer training for Connecting Classroom schools to access an online course. And very kindly, Mkhize has offered to present for us, and she was extremely inspired by the sessions. So we're just going to hear from her now.
Hi.
My
My name is from St. Matthew's Primary. I attended a CCGL workshop on May to June 2021. I really learned a lot. The workshop was about the introduction to international learning, maintaining equitable partnership, sensory skills, that is about the introduction to core skills. Firstly, it was a really experience where we learned about Microsoft, how to install the Microsoft team and the workshop tools. It was the first time I experienced that. It was my first time to experience learning online. It was really, really a great experience. It was wow. About the partnership, we learned about partnership steps. That is preparing, developing, embedding, and then expanding. In preparing, we were identifying the common objectives, developing, teaching, and leadership was enhanced. In embedding, this is where equality, mutuality, and sustainability was seen. In expanding, we shared our experience. Now we had to disseminate. In the maintaining equitable partnership, we learned about those steps. There are more, about 10 of them, if not 8. We learned about the sensory skills, introduction to core skills, the core skills for teachers. This one really helped a lot because it changed how I see things personally. It changed how communication to me. I learned that it is very important. If we communicate and collaborate with our colleagues, then we can make conducive environment. Well, I really enjoyed being part of the workshop. It changed a lot in me. I felt like I'm a new person with fresh mind who is going to change the learning and teaching in my school environment, especially the core skills for teachers. You know, we have so many differences in our personalities, our characters. With core skills, it is going to help us to understand each other, to make learning conducive for learners and teachers, even our principals. Really, it made me a new person, a changed person. I felt like I could start right away after the workshop. Thank you.
Thank you, May. I could hear the dog barking in the background there. Apologies. This is a pre-record, but we do get background noise. You know, these sessions have been so successful that sentiment has been echoed from many teachers that have taken part, and it has inspired them to work more collaboratively with their partners in Wales, but just given them the confidence also to understand how to approach global citizenship and core skills in their classroom and in their professional practice. Now, we also offered a course to leaders. So next up is a short clip from one of our devoted principals that works with us a lot. There were a number of sessions that were offered, and many of these were on a Saturday. So there was a real testament to commitment here. And a lot of it is written about in our blog, but Ntate Poka from Mazenod is just going to talk a little bit about the inclusion element of the course that he attended.
Hello, this is my take on the online course overall, which was about inclusion. I never expected that I would learn so much in the beginning of the course. I really enjoyed the online course, and I think the British Council had planned and laid it out in such a way that I found it easy to follow. The workload was not that much, and I had finished everything on time. In overall, I really liked this online training. It was fun and equipping at the same time. I now see the leadership in a whole new way. This online course have just added more on top of what I already had, and this had developed me intellectually and made me a better leader than before. To be honest, I will definitely take another online course if allowed such an opportunity. There was a question about how I'm going to implement all the ideas that I've just learned about. So now, I think there is a lot to do, and I have already done more. In the actual fact, I'm now working hard at my school to bring back normality in all aspects of learning. I think everything should be accessible in order to do what? To allow teaching and learning to be smooth. So I think in the inclusion needs two ways, which are access and engagement. Anyway, we cannot access everything, but I think we should try as much as possible to make sure that there is an equity to all, so that learning can be smooth. I think that this is my take on this point. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ntate. And that leads us directly back to what I mentioned at the beginning in relation to World Children's Day, where we are focusing on rights and accessibility and education for all. This is spotlighting SDG 4 quality education. And the materials that were covered in those sessions were inspiring. The British Council has got an incredible way of delivering this in an interactive way online. So there are materials I can share, but you wouldn't get certification. What we hope is that if there is a new Connecting Classrooms next year, we can offer support for more schools to get involved and more teachers and principals in Lesotho to be upskilled by accessing those courses. Okay. So without further ado, we go on to our next bit, which is about empowering our young leaders of the future with Polly. Who's going to talk about Walk the Global Walk. And her camera is on now. I'm sure most of you know Polly. I will share your slides, my dear.
Oh, thank you, Sharon. Prynhawn da, noswaith da, dumela everybody. It's so lovely to see so many people here. And thank you very much, Sharon, for the opportunity to share this project with everybody. But I'm so inspired by all I've heard tonight and all the really transformational work that's fantastic. Okay, I'll take you for a walk. So this is our Walk the Global Walk project. I think a lot of you know something about it already, but I'll be explaining a little bit about it for you. So these young people featured here are from Old Road Primary School. They're some of our band of global goalkeepers involved in the Walk the Global Walk project. So more of them later on. Can you move on, please, Sharon? To the next slide. Thank you very much. So this has been a European funded project involving 12 nations. You can see them there on the map. The little numbers that are hard to see show you the number of schools involved in each. And the idea was to mobilize young people, to motivate them to take action for the Sustainable Development Goals. And I confess that when I started this project, I coordinated it for Carmarthenshire County Council. When I started it, I didn't know anything at all about the Sustainable Development Goals. I hadn't even heard of them. I certainly know a lot more about them now, and so does everybody else. And it has been one of the most successful international projects I've ever had the privilege to be involved with. So in each nation, there was a local authority, such as Carmarthenshire County Council, working alongside an NGO, such as Dolen, Cymru, Lesotho. I say such as, but I don't think another such NGO exists, to be honest with you, especially after all we've heard tonight. So each year we focused on a different sustainable development goals. You can see the three that we were looking at there. Move on to the next slide, Sharon, please. There we are. We didn't just work with countries in Europe, being as how we had the privilege of working with Dolen, Cymru, Lesotho. We linked up, of course, with our fabulous school partners in Lesotho as well through the Connecting Classrooms programme, which also focuses on the Sustainable Development Goals. So everything was complementary and it worked out fantastically well and gave a truly global dimension to what was formerly a European-based project. Okay, Sharon, moving on. So the reason the project's called Walk the Global Walk was there was a huge focus on a big public event, the walk, that was supposed to take place each year and bring all the young people together with decision makers to work on the Sustainable Development Goals together. We managed it once in 2019. If you can click again, Sharon. We had over 300 people together in our National Botanic Garden, including some wonderful visitors from Lesotho, and there was a whole festival of Sustainable Development Goal learning going on there, everyone learning from each other, enjoying each other's company, learning about each other's cultures as well. It was great, and if you didn't see the video of it before, another time after this you can watch the video because it's well worth remembering what a big public event like that looks like. If you move on, Sharon, the following year we focused on SDG 13, which is climate action, and we managed in the January of 2020 to get well over 100 people together in a local hall. Our students, the pupils, the teachers, local councillors, people who worked for the local authority who could support the schools with their work on climate action. So transport people, waste minimisation people, all these people, we got them all together to share ideas about what actions they thought they needed to take. The county was able to share its carbon reduction plan. Pupils were able to comment on that and see how they could help with that in their schools. So it was a great event, but that was our last face-to-face event. We then had to get very inventive and creative and take everything online. So another event that happened that year was getting our global goalkeepers, our pupil ambassadors for the project and young climate activists together with Welsh Government and councillors in a youth climate summit that you can see there. We also got them together with the students in the other countries, in the other European countries, and some in Lesotho as well, to work on recommendations for a climate action manifesto, which I think will come up now if Sharon clicks. There we are. Very proud of this. The 8 recommendations put forward by young people from Carmarthenshire that the county has agreed to and is enshrined in, I believe, in our corporate strategy now. So that all happened virtually, which was quite something. And Councillor Kevin Campbell, who is involved in all of that, there's a quote from him there, I think, if you click again, Sharon. Go. So they really, really were making a difference. If you click again, Sharon, then to the next slide. So as I say, you know, doing things online made us have to think in a completely different way and much more creatively. And in fact, I think genuinely we achieved a lot more than we would have done if we just focused on doing the one big event each year face to face. So just these are some of the legacies from the project. We trebled the number of schools involved. We got up to 18 schools in the last year of the project. The funding finished in August of this year. And these are some of the things that went on. You can see there over 5,000 pupils took part in activities, which the last year we focused on SDG 16, which is peace, conflict and strong institutions. And all these were extra things that you see there. They weren't part of the project application. They were extra things that we were able to do because it was all online. And I think one of the best was the first one, the virtual walk from Llanelli to Lesotho, which I'll talk more about in a little bit. If you move on now, Sharon. There we are. So central to all of this have been our global goalkeepers, the pupil ambassadors. We have young ones as young as 9 going up to about 14 years of age. And I'm sure some of them, despite the fact that the funding is finished, are still carrying on with being global goalkeepers. And you can see some quotes from them there. I think the biggest wins for those are under personal benefits there. Sorry, Sharon. That they felt through the work that they'd done, leading actions in their schools with their peers, gave them a more positive outlook on life, improved their confidence, and they felt listened to. Now, if you think that this was happening during COVID at a time when our young people were very, very isolated, I think that is a fantastic achievement and outcome for this project. And you can see some of the activities they got involved in their schools. And remember, again, you know, they're having to do this in their school bubbles or virtually or socially distanced. And one of the greatest achievements was that they were awarded the National Young Peacemakers Trophy at the International Eisteddfod back in the summer of this year. It was really difficult to sum up this project for me. People kept asking me, members of Dolen Cymru included, what is this project all about? And it was so far-reaching and quite difficult to summarize, but a pupil, I think from Parker Tywyn School, gave it to us at the bottom there. The project has taught me about the world, how it's changing, what I can do to help. Perfect. A wonderful soundbite and very true from a 9-year or 10-year-old, I believe. Okay, moving on, Sharon. I'm aware I'm maybe a bit short of time. Sharon, you can tell me.
We're okay.
So, I'm doing okay. Okay, so this is some more of the legacy there as far as the schools and the teachers are concerned there. 95% of them committed to continuing about the Sustainable Development Goals. Again, these were teachers who, when we started, possibly hadn't heard of them. 80% want to continue developing as peace schools. Now, we heard today that 6 of our Global Walk schools became accredited peace schools today at the Wales for Peace conference. So major congratulations to them. We made bilingual resources that 90% are going to carry on using those. So those will live on. It's incredibly relevant to the new curriculum. And you can hear more about that if you watch the legacy video that we have. All the teachers have been saying that. And most importantly of all, perhaps for our purposes tonight, is that, you know, and then 90% of them, of the schools, are linked to schools in Lesotho through the Connecting Classrooms programme. So Sharon, if you move on, I think one of the biggest things, is another click, there we are. So it has amazingly strengthened our relationship with Lesotho in various ways, one of which is that with the resources that we made and trained the teachers to use, in each resource there are several, Lesotho is used as the context for several of the lesson plans. So there's one here on climate justice, climate change and conflict, Mrs. Ramatobo's dilemma. And we did some learning methodology with that one, and that turned out to be one of the most favourite resources that the schools really enjoyed using, and they've told us they're going to use that in the future, which is great. Carry on clicking, Sharon, please. And then this one, because we couldn't do an actual walk, we did a virtual walk, and 10 of our primary schools here and their partners in Lesotho got involved with this, stepping it out to Lesotho. We made a Padlet, and we'll share the link to that, because you could use this. Everyone could walk virtually to Lesotho or back from Lesotho to Wales. I'd love to see some schools in Lesotho doing this as well. Everything you need is on this Padlet to do it, okay? There's a very nice little passport you can use. There's a tracker. How we were doing this, the children here do a daily mile at school. So they count their steps up to make a mile to help them with their exercise and physical fitness. And we worked out how many miles it was to Lesotho, so they virtually walked there. And we had some wonderful video messages from different schools along the way. And best of all, we had a superb collection of videos sent to us by you wonderful schools in Lesotho that maybe Sharon will play afterwards, but if not, it's on the link. You imagined that our schools were actually walking to Lesotho and had arrived in your schoolyards, and you welcomed us with open arms. It was fantastic. You can carry on clicking, Sharon. There we are. I think that's the passport. It's available in English as well. It's on the Padlet for anyone who wants to use it. I hope a lot more people take part in virtual walks to Lesotho and to Wales. Okay, clicking on. There's some resources that you can use there. The SDGs 16, the peace and conflict ones, they're all really relevant, up to date, but available in Welsh and English there. Steps to Lesotho, that's the welcome video, and that's our legacy video. I hope I haven't taken up too much of your time. Thank you so much to the team in Wales, Sharon and Mandy. I know Mandy's had to leave. And to all the schools that took part, it was a blast. Thank you.
It really was. Thank you, Polly. It's amazing that you were able to summarise that insane project so well. And I know Mandy's infographics have really helped there. Apologies, there was a little formatting error, I didn't notice. But like I said right at the beginning, all of this will be available to be shared, the slideshows and the links. And we've got 5 minutes. My voice is going. So I'm just going to share the last 2 slides and then we will close. And we're still on 35 participants. We went up to 50 at one point, so we're doing really well. Let's just go back to our closing slideshow.
Hello.
As usual, I restart the video every time. So this is our 30-minute video, which we'll share the link with, that summarizes the project. It's beautiful, so please do take a look at that if you haven't seen it already. And that will start playing now as soon as I click my laptop. Oh, there we go. Right. So just a few bits from me about what next. So we have an evaluation that I'm going to put in the chat for you to go to feedback on today's session. There's some specific actions on there with links. So many of the links from today are on it. So you can go through the evaluation and save them on your device before you submit the online form. Feedback is really, really important for us to plan ahead. So please fill it in. Tomorrow or Monday, like I said, maybe you could celebrate World Children's Day. It would be incredible if we can continue the global goalkeepers and that we have groups of learners in all of our schools linked in Lesotho that are taking action for the SDGs with or without a Connecting Classrooms project. I think it's such a good team name and role, and giving those pupils their voice and standing in looking forward to and taking action for the world that they want. I think that would be amazing to get started. We're going to have another short Zoom event on the 1st of December to celebrate all the tree planting that we've been doing. We haven't had time to talk about any of that in this conference, so that will be discussed in January when we have a school celebration. And we're going to launch more resources. So similar to what Polly has just shared, Mandy has been working on some incredible resources for the Welsh curriculum with lots of videos and links from Lesotho to make it a really, really rich resource for primary pupils at this stage. We will be moving into secondary later next year. And also, Veronica's just going to finish with us and tell you a little bit about our work in well-being. I haven't been able to talk about it in this conference. The 7th project is our well-being project, but we have a whole conference for that, and we've had 2 this year. So I will share the summary video with you as a link, but part of that has been working with the book My Hero Is You, which has been specifically about dealing with the COVID pandemic. Now there's a new book coming out, and I would really like to suggest and share those links with you to use that as a focus for your partnership work. So after Christmas, Connecting Classrooms finishes. So maybe you can all focus on well-being and use these resources. There is some amazing links on the British Council website as well that look at 5 ways to well-being. And we have this whole well-being project that we've been working on this year with a whole host of resources and expertise to share. But you're just going to have to access that through the link because we haven't had time to tell you about it today. So over to you, Veronica.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for that, Sharon. It's been brilliant. The amount of work that's been going on, I think we can really say that as a small charity, we really punch above our weight. There's absolutely no doubt about that. And I think as far as value for money is concerned, when you think of what we've done in the Wellbeing Project, it was a £15,000 project, 1-5. And the amount of work that has been done through that project is incredible. And we're hoping that we can apply for some more to carry on doing that work. But meanwhile, as Sharon said, there is My Hero Is You 2021 is there, and we want to translate it. We haven't got any grant funding for it at the moment. So we'll be sending this out to all our supporters, but you're just getting a little bit of a preview, that we really want to translate it, make some more, not necessarily radio shows, hopefully radio shows, but certainly have some narrations of it. Amelia will be very busy. And so what we're trying to do now, Sharon, if you can go on to the next slide and click again. We've got, if you've got, and this is primarily for people in Wales for this, because it will go to our fundraising pages, which won't work in Lesotho, but just so that people in Lesotho know that we are trying to raise funds for this. The BOP is like throwing your money in a bucket. If you've got an online banking app, you can just scan that with your phone, and you can try it now. And or the other one goes to our total giving site, and it opens up our fundraising page for this particular appeal for My Hero. And we are trying to raise about £750. It does cost an awful lot of money to produce the actual files and to produce hard books. And as our teachers in Lesotho have told us, they really do appreciate having storybooks in Sesotho. And it's been something that has worked really well. And this new book is all about giving children hope for the future, because they might have got a little bit down, a little bit, oh my goodness, you know, this pandemic, and this is, again, for children in Wales, it would be fantastic to be able to share, as Sharon said. They could do it in their language, and people and the learners in Lesotho can do it in Sesotho, and come together and discuss their feelings and their way forward for the future. I'm not going to keep you any longer because we're past 6 o'clock. So Keleboa, Bome, Bontate, and everybody who's been involved in this today. It has been absolutely brilliant. And I think Sharon will probably want you to all to turn your cameras on, because that's what she likes to do.
Definitely. You know me by now, many people know this. I like having the equivalent of a Zoom selfie so that we can all have a photo. So please pop your cameras on. We're going to have to take a couple because we've got a few different screens, and I am just popping the evaluation in the chat. So if you can click on that evaluation before you disappear from the meeting, and fill it in straight away so that you don't forget. But if you want your photo, please put your cameras on, and then I can take some screenshots. Let me just close the chat for a second as well. Lovely. I'll just let more screens come on. I know there has been some sound issues, guys, so if you're watching this now as Catchup, thank you for your perseverance. And I can see some new faces and some old faces. This is wonderful. Okay, right, first photo coming up. So after 3, we'll do the shilly shilly. I can see me Fosi there. Hello, me. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Le shilly shilly. Wonderful. And then I'm going to do another one. Just bear with me. Oh, I got a million things open on my computer. I'm very guilty of doing this. Okay, let's do another one. I've got 2 screens, so I'm going to take another one. Okay, after 3, le shilly shilly. 1, 2, 3, le shilly shilly. And I get high pitched every time. Wonderful. That was a fantastic. Thank you for joining, everybody. It's been a marathon. There's a lot to share, but there's just so much good work. I think next year we'll have to have a Jolly Phonics conference, a wellbeing conference, and a maths one, all separate, in addition to our global learning one that we'll have in January. So sign up to things on the survey links, please, and get in touch with me via WhatsApp or email if you want to join any of the projects if you haven't been involved so far. If you are involved, keep doing what you're doing, because it's amazing and your learners are benefiting absolutely no end. So thank you. Rollerbahele, diolch yn fawr, and nos da, everybody.
Bye-bye, me. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, me. Bye-bye, me.
Bye, guys.
Bye, Sharon.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Lovely to see you all. Bye. Thanks for coming.
Bye-bye.
Bye, me.
Bye-bye.
Bye, me. Nice to see you, Miss Elo. Catch us next.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Thank you, Paul. That was wonderful. That was really, really good. Thank you so much.
I hope it didn't take up too much time. That was all I was just aware. But well done, you. Excellent stuff.
No, it all went
going on, isn't there?
Yeah, the timing worked actually for everything amazingly.
Good.
Yeah, I'm quite surprised. I'm just going to take people out so that if you don't know how to leave Zoom, guys, you need to click the red button that says end or leave meeting, and then you'll be thrown out. Lovely. Thank you for joining. Tade Jose, are you there? I think some people are still stuck on there, I think.
I'll go now, Sharon.
I'm still here, mate. I'm still here.
I hope you're feeling very proud, and Tade Jose.
Yeah, very.
Good. All right. I'll catch up with you tomorrow, and Tade, I'll send you a link, okay?
Calibu.
All right. Okay,
Bye,
thanks, Paul.
Sharon. Have a nice evening. Go relax now.